Hello everybody and welcome to another Fakemon drawings video. I have been working on a Fakemon region called Fravia, and what you are seeing on screen is the first draft of the region. I imagine it will play out more like Dungeons & Dragons with Pokemon elements sprinkled in, rather than your typical Pokemon game. I'm not going to cover the region as much in this video because I want to draw more art for it and try to really capture the feeling I want in its own video, or series of videos, once I have everything created. I currently have a list of about 40 or so additional Fakemon to make, and then the NPCs on top of that. So you think like your gym leaders, your bad team members, Elite Four, things like that. So it's a bigger project. Be sure to like the video and let me know what you think, and subscribe so you don't miss any of them when they come out. In this video, I'll be showing the most recent Fakemon I've drawn over the past few months, and I wanted to do it in a way that replicates the order you may run into them during a playthrough. If you're looking at the map itself, you can kind of see the different biomes and things. It is very rough. I just kind of sketched it out so I could have it envisioned in my head. But I imagine you'll start at the very top in that little town with the dirt path and then continue forward from there. The world itself will be an open world, so to speak. Like, you can go wherever you want, but you may be drawn more to other areas. So this will be more of a rough estimate of where I think a normal person would go and traverse in terms of a quote-unquote normal playthrough. Not all areas will be covered in this video. While not directly referenced, the other videos connected with this one, my other digital art drawings, do connect into this. For example, the Torkoal regional that I made will be in the desert area of this, whereas I don't talk about the desert area in this video. So make sure to watch all of them to stay on top of what all I've created and where you think they'll go. So after you leave your hometown and collect your Pokédex, you'll have to cross a large grassy meadow full of your typical Route 1 Pokemon, including this little guy. This is Sloom, a squishy little blob that loves everybody. They are very loyal, often being one of the first captures for beginner trainers. Supposedly, this Pokemon does not taste good, so it's not preyed on by predators. Once a Sloom has high enough friendship with its trainer, it will evolve. This is Smoodle. Upon evolution, Sloom's goopy body turns hard as steel and a spike grows out of its body. This spike's purpose is unknown, but it's believed to be linked with the evolution process. Smoodle are known to be even more loyal than its previous form, now more capable of protecting the trainer. For a lot of my more recent Fakemon, I wanted to focus on the unused type combinations, and one of those is normal steel. I originally played with an idea for a paradox form of gumshoes, but ultimately decided to create something brand new. I know Dragon Quest uses slimes as an early enemy, and wouldn't you know it, they even have metal slimes. So Sloom is a corruption of the word slime, just making it sound more ooey, and then it evolves into a metal slime, so I named it Smoodle because Moodle sounds like metal, but with an added S because it's still just a slime. I just love how squishy and fun these turned out, and I hope you guys like them too. Once you make it through the tall grass, you will be given the choice of a forest or a desert. For the purpose of this video, we will head into the forest. As you walk through the forest, you'll see many bugs and other small Pokemon living in the forest. Today, we'll be talking about 2 of the evolution lines you'll encounter. As with many Pokemon games, there is an early game 3-stage bug Pokemon. This is Fuzzybug. Small and furry, this Pokemon is sought out by many trainers, but it greatly dislikes the attention. As a defense mechanism, it can harden the hairs on its body to ward off predators. It lives in trees and eats leaves until it's ready to evolve. Upon evolution, Fuzzybug's hair grows long and forms a large cocoon around itself to protect it during metamorphosis. This is Wuzzabug. It retains the ability to harden its hairs as a defense mechanism. No one has ever seen what creature lies hidden beneath the fur. Once Wuzzabug has gained enough experience in battle, it will evolve into Bugabear. Bugabear bursts out of its hardened hair shell upon evolution. This Pokemon is large and powerful enough to knock down trees. People like to use the fur for clothing as it is very soft and comfortable. Very territorial, it is uncommon to see more than one Bugabear at a time. So for the normal bug combination, I knew I had to make a bug with fur, so I immediately thought of woolly worms. I looked into it and thought about making it a 3-stage evolution with caterpillar, cocoon, and moth, but decided that was too boring and overdone, so I thought about the Dungeons & Dragons creature Bugbear. From there, I typed bear bug into Google and found the water bears, or tardigrades. I thought it was the perfect transition from small fuzzy caterpillar to a straight-up bear-bug hybrid. I even found out later that woolly worms are also called woolly bears. How perfect is that? The name comes from the rhyme, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair, Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy, was he? But the naming also sounds like fuzzy bug, then was a bug, like used to be a bug, and then bug a bear, using bugbear inspiration, as well as the word ugga, usually used to refer to something cavemanish or rough. I imagine it would have the abilities fluffy or iron barbs and maybe tangled hair as like a hidden ability. I haven't tried to think too far into everything, but there are little ideas here and there of what I'd like to implement into the game itself. Another new Fakemon in the forests of Fravia is Shrome, a rare ground fairy type Pokemon. Shrome spends all day tending to its mushroom, ensuring it grows and stays healthy. The mushroom seems to reciprocate this behavior by releasing spores to defend Shrome from would-be attackers until it gains enough experience to evolve. Shrome shares the energy from evolution with its mushroom, allowing it to grow exponentially, and Shrome becomes Numad. This Pokemon constantly searches the forest for the best fertilizer to feed its mushroom. Numads are very proud of their mushrooms and will often gather in groups to compare who's grown the largest mushroom. The mushroom grows enormous with the energy absorbed from evolution, and Numad happily becomes Gardevoir. These are solitary Pokemon, being very protective of their mushroom and will chase away anyone intruding on their turf. It is unknown if the mushroom causes this change in the Pokemon's demeanor. I really wanted to do something special for the Ground Fairy Fakemon, so I decided this would be the pseudo-legendary for the region. I haven't decided if I want to make another one yet. I have an idea, but I haven't really put too much thought into it, but just keep an eye out in future videos for another one. But this one, I knew I wanted to make a giant mushroom-inspired Pokemon, and garden gnomes represent the fairy typing pretty well, so I decided to put them together. I mean, imagine finding a small little mushroom with a gnome underneath, and eventually this thing evolves into like a 7 or 8 foot mushroom that towers over you. I loved the idea of the symbiotic and possibly even parasitic relationship between creature and mushroom, where the mushroom actually gains the most out of evolution. I greatly enjoyed drawing this one, and I love the idea that a pseudo-legendary isn't just another dragon. The name comes from mushroom and gnome, nomad and mushroom, then garden gnome, guard because it's protective, and mome because the definition of a mome is a fool. Think of how it only cares for a giant mushroom instead of itself, further leaning into the idea that the mushroom is subtly controlling the little guy. Now, you've already seen a couple Fakemon that appear in the swampy marsh of Frayville with the evolutions for Carablast and Shelmet, but I have a few more ideas, and in this video we'll be looking at Quagulatch. Quagulatch skims the surface of swamps seeking its next meal. Being a large parasite, it uses its circular teeth to attach itself to Pokemon, draining them of their health. Smaller Pokemon are consumed whole. If you are traveling through a swampy marsh and see a red stripe above the water, prepare yourself for battle. So before Scarlet and Violet, there was no bug-dark type combination, and I had the idea for a massive leech Pokemon, so I wanted to draw it out and make it a reality. I spent way too long designing this one. The more I added, it looked like a weird fish, and the more I took away, it just looked like a worm. I'm still not super happy with the result, but it's close enough to what I pictured. I imagine it will have a new ability that allows it to heal for double the amount when using an HP draining attack, similar to how the Big Root works, but as an ability. The name comes from coagulate, when blood solidifies, because, you know, leeches and blood. Quag from quagmire, which is just another word for like a muddy, marshy area, and latch, to hold on like a leech does. So if you've been watching these videos for a while, this Fakemon isn't actually new, but a redesign of my first ever Fakemon evolution for Dunsparce. I decided I really didn't like Dargonsparce in really any way, so I took inspiration from Dunsparce and created Dragonsparce. Fravian Dunsparce is a capable hunter in the dense jungles, allowing it to evolve into a fearsome dragon. Dragonsparce is an apex predator in the deepest jungles. Its deadly stinger can cause paralysis, but it prefers to fight using its claws and fangs. There's not a lot to say here, as I've already discussed why I wanted a dragon evolution for Dunsparce in a previous video, but this time I leaned more into the dragon aspect instead of a large wasp. I never liked the face of the original, so I changed that a good bit. I actually enjoyed the redesign because I really get to see firsthand how improved my drawing style has become. I also gave the original design an overcomplicated name, so Dragonsparce seems much more in line with the Pokemon world. In the numerous mountain ranges of Fravia, a few familiar Pokemon roam wild. Everyone knows about the 3 Hitmons that evolved from Tyrogue, but wouldn't it be cool if they could also evolve? How would that work? Let me show you! These are the 3 Mondos. Let's go over them one at a time. After learning and perfecting Blaze Kick, Hitmonlee is infused with the power of fire and becomes Mondo Blaze. This Pokemon can stretch its limbs to deliver fiery kicks with precision accuracy. Mondo Blaze will ignore any trainer it does not feel is worthy of its discipline. After learning and perfecting Thunder Punch, Hitmonchan is infused with the power of electricity and becomes Mondo Spark. Filled with enormous amounts of energy, this Pokemon cannot keep still, bouncing back and forth waiting for its next fight. Mondo Spark will emit sparks when it gets into an intense battle, so it's unsafe to stand too close. After learning and perfecting Triple Axle, Hitmontop is infused with the power of ice and becomes Mondo Frost. This Pokemon is made of independently rotating pieces, giving it the ability to spin like a top forever. Mondo Frost swings its appendages around wildly, freezing enemies with an icy touch. For Hitmonlee, I wanted to use the fire move Blaze Kick because it just sounds cool and useful. I always loved that move, and darn it, I think it's really cool that Hitmonlee can learn it too. I wanted his stretchy band legs to break apart and become links containing the fire legs emanating from his body. I wanted to shrink the arms to better emphasize the kicking, and instead of just eyes on his chest, I wanted to give some flair with the flames, but also the color shading gives the design more character, so to speak. Resembling a bird, perhaps even a fox, the singe coloring is 100% up to the viewer interpretation. Hitmonchan is a boxer, and I didn't want to mess with that design too much, but I knew I wanted it to be electrically charged to resemble Electro from the Spider-Man comics. I imagined the evolved form's colors to darken a bit as well, so I made the outfit darker, but also more jagged like electric bolts. Looks more like a superhero than I intended, but we have Palafin now, so I don't think it's too far-fetched. Hitmontop was the last one I designed an evolution for, and I knew I wanted Ice because the move Triple Axle exists, but he can't learn it. What's up with that? Really? He's got the 3 legs, it's the triple... I don't know. It would later be revealed to me that Ice Spinner is also an Ice-type move that could be used the same way, so pick your poison, I suppose. I completely forgot that was even a new move introduced in Gen 9, and didn't even think about it, because these ideas were mostly made up before or during the release of Scarlet and Violet, so a lot of ideas are just kind of archaic, but not exactly, but, you know, if I have an idea, I'm going to create it. I knew I wanted to have large snowball maces, but that ended up being too bulky and it didn't make sense for how it move or interact outside of battle, so I went with ice skates instead. Looks a little bit silly, but the whole idea of a fighter that spins on his head doesn't make a lot of sense either. Also, the naming for all 3 of them is obviously their element, fire, electric, and ice, mixed with the word Mondo, which means something remarkable or striking. So I imagine it's like a remarkable blaze, a remarkable spark, or a remarkable frost. Within the cave systems of the mountains, a lot of shady and unpleasant creatures lurk. One such Pokemon is the new Fravian form of Skiddo and its evolution Gogoat. No longer grazing in meadows, the Skiddo in Fravia prefer to live in the mountain caves. Their skin has become gray and they like to play pranks on trainers who venture into the dark. And Fravian Gogoat, now being bipedal, allows for great upper arm strength to hurl boulders and climb large mountains for nests. They are considered by many to be a bad omen, often playing pranks on trainers that can cause serious injury. Fravian Gogoat rarely, if ever, are seen in daylight. I liked the idea of a satyr Pokemon and knew Skiddo and Gogoat hadn't been seen for a while. Again, this was prior to Scarlet and Violet with them being more prominent, so why not give them a regional form? I wanted it to be dark and fairy so the sinister nature really shines through. I didn't intend for Gogoat to look like straight up Satan, but I also wasn't upset. I really like the designs. Just imagine these guys creeping up on you in the darkness of a cave. Ugh. So as you can see from the map, the majority of Fravia is surrounded by water. So naturally, there will be a lot of oceanic Pokemon to catch. I haven't drawn really any of them yet. It's more of just a lot of ideas that I have, but I did draw one Pokemon living on the sea floor known as Spongerner. This Pokemon slowly moves along the sea floor, always seeking a better habitat. The outer surface of this Pokemon is very absorbent and squishy, and it is believed this Pokemon evolved convergently to resemble Stonjourner from the Galar region. So I had the idea to do a sponge Pokemon, and I wanted it to be an upside-down version of Stonjourner. And personally, I think I nailed it. I imagine it having very slow speed but high defense stats, acting as a bulky tank. I decided to keep the monotyping to be more similar to Stonjourner, just being rock, but I thought about making it water grass as well. When I showed one of my friends, they asked if it would learn any grass moves, and honestly, I don't think it actually would naturally. So I just decided to keep it the water type. The name is obviously Stonjourner, but sponge. Once you have the ability to explore the open waters of Fravia, you'll eventually run into a large icy landmass, home to many different ice-type Pokemon. I'm going to introduce 3 of them today. In the frozen wastelands of Fravia, trainers need to be wary of dangerous Pokemon, especially Adderime. Typically hidden beneath the snow, this Pokemon ambushes prey with its fangs, capable of inflicting both poison and frostbite, a deadly combination. Its body is glassy and transparent, allowing its deadly venom to show through. I love the idea of poison and ice together because it's technically the worst type combination, because ice has the most weaknesses and poison has the least offensive capabilities. It's really unfortunate because I love this design. The eyes in particular. I tried really hard to get the snake aspect right and had to redraw it many times because I kept giving it too many details. And with Pokemon design, less is more, as I have learned. The name comes from adder, the type of snake I originally based it on, and rime, which is when frost forms on an object by rapid freezing of water vapor. Not all creatures in the cold are dangerous. Some are even playful, like this Snout here. Believed to be descendants of tundra-dwelling ferret, Snout are playful creatures. These Pokemon are able to regulate their internal temperature using their tails, expelling the cold from the icy tips of their fur. Snout are friendly to the local Spheal population, but fight viciously against the local Adderime. When I first thought about doing a normal ice type, I wanted to make an evolution for Ferret. In new Pokemon Snap, the tundra area is full of Ferret living in the snow, and I wanted to expand on that idea. But no matter what I tried to do, I could not improve on Ferret's design. I leaned towards it turning into a Stoat, but I looked into it and learned that Stoats are actually smaller than Ferrets, so it wouldn't make sense. I continued my design of this Stoat anyway, and gave it similarities to Ferret, like, the face markings to resemble whiskers, and turned it into its own thing. I decided to include in its dex entry that it's somewhat descended from the Snow Ferrets because I still really like that idea, and then the name is just Snow and Stoat combined. While this next Pokemon isn't technically from the region, nor does it roam in the wild, it will be a part of the Pokédex and will play a part in the journey through Fravia. This rare Pokemon was brought over from the Paldea region, where they call it Iron Frost. It seems to share similarities to a cursed machine mentioned in an old book from that region. The book explains how a cooling mechanism was cursed and came to life, freezing an entire village before disappearing. It is unknown if these accounts are factual. For my first attempt at a Paradox Pokemon, I liked how they used both female and male evolutions of Kirlia to be one cohesive future Paradox form in Iron Valiant. I wanted to do the same for another line, but my options were pretty limited, only including the Snorant line and the Burmy line, so naturally I chose the more interesting of the two, combining Glalie and Frostlass, but I also made sure to pull elements from Mega Glalie as well. I also think Mega Glalie should have been Ice Dark type, so I went ahead and used it here instead. I had fun sketching out the robotic elements and figuring how best to incorporate both entities, ending with what I feel is a good mix. The name comes from the same future Paradox naming convention, being iron followed by a descriptive word, in this case frost. I won't go into too much detail of how this specific Pokemon will play a role in the game itself. I want to leave that up to a surprise. So that is all the Fakemon I have drawn over the past few months. The next video for my Fakemon region will focus on the characters you'll meet, like professors, gym leaders, and Elite Four, or I might take the time to draw out the ideas I have for the legendaries of this region. I haven't decided yet, so either way, get hyped for both. As always, let me know what you all think of my designs, what your opinions are of the region itself, if you have any favorites, and gosh darn it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!